The moment I walked into Luna Blu that Thursday night, I knew my marriage was finished. Not because of what I saw, though watching my wife Miranda laugh at Trevor Lasker's jokes while his hand rested on her knee certainly painted a picture, but because of what I finally understood about myself. I wasn't angry. I should have been furious, devastated, something. Instead, I felt this weird calm, like stepping outside during a thunderstorm and realizing the lightning can't touch you anymore. Owen! Miranda's voice carried that fake brightness she used with clients. You made it. Trevor was just telling the funniest story about his trip to Cabo. Trevor Lasker, senior partner at Miranda's law firm, looked exactly like Central Casting would order for arrogant, rich guy. 50-something, silver hair, teeth too white to be natural, wearing a watch that cost more than my Honda. He gave me that condescending smile, wealthy men perfect in prep school. Owen, right? The engineer? Trevor's handshake was deliberately firm. Miranda's told me so much about you. I bet she had. I'm probably how I worked on HVAC systems while she handled million-dollar contracts. How I preferred Netflix to charity galas. How I made dad jokes that made her cringe. Nothing too embarrassing, I hope, I said, taking the empty chair across from them. The table was intimate, clearly set for two. My arrival had disrupted something. Actually, Trevor leaned back, swirling his wine, we were just discussing how different you two are. Opposites attract and all that. His eyes held this amused glint, like he was sharing an inside joke with Miranda. Miranda shifted uncomfortably. Trevor, don't... No, it's fascinating, Trevor continued. Here's Miranda, this brilliant attorney, and you're... He gestured vaguely at me. Well, you fix air conditioners. The silence stretched. Miranda stared at her wine glass. Other diners continued their conversations, unaware they were witnessing the moment Owen Barsky's last illusion shattered. You know what, Trevor? I reached across the table and slowly twisted my wedding ring off my finger. The gold band made a small clink as I placed it on the white tablecloth between us. You're absolutely right. Miranda's face went pale. Owen, what are you... I don't deserve her. I stood up, straightening my jacket. Thanks for pointing that out. I walked away without looking back, but I heard Miranda's sharp intake of breath, Trevor's confused, what just happened, and the whispered conversation starting at nearby tables. Outside, the October air felt crisp against my face. I pulled out my phone and called Dave, my best friend since college. How'd dinner go? Dave asked. Remember that conversation we had about karma? Yeah. I think I just became its personal assistant. The drive home took 20 minutes through suburban Charlotte's tree-lined streets. Our house, Miranda's house now, I supposed, sat in a development called Brookshire Meadows, where every lawn was professionally maintained and every mailbox matched. I'd always felt like an imposter here, the blue-collar guy who'd married up. Inside, I poured myself a bourbon and sat in my home office, staring at my computer screen. 3 months of suspicious behavior suddenly made perfect sense. The late nights, preparing for depositions, weekend client meetings, her new workout routine and expensive lingerie I never saw her wear. I opened my laptop and started typing. Not angry emails or dramatic letters, something much more useful. A timeline. March 15th. Miranda starts mentioning Trevor more frequently. March 22nd. First, late night at the office. April 3rd. New credit card bill shows charges at restaurants I'd never been to. April 18th. She changes her phone password. The pattern was embarrassingly obvious once I laid it out. I'd been willfully blind, trusting my wife while she systematically dismantled our marriage. My phone buzzed. Miranda. Where did you go? Trevor's confused. Come back so we can talk. I texted back. Tell Trevor not to worry. He won't have to pretend to like me anymore. Another buzz. You're being dramatic. It wasn't what it looked like. I laughed out loud. Wasn't what it looked like. His hand on her knee, their intimate seating, his casual dismissal of me. What exactly was I supposed to think? Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. Instead of responding, I opened our joint bank account online. Miranda had been busy. Charges at boutique hotels, expensive restaurants, a jewelry store I'd never heard of. All on days she'd claimed to be working late. But here's what she didn't know about her air conditioner repair husband. I'd been handling our finances for 8 years. I knew every account, every password, every automatic payment. Miranda was brilliant with contract law, but she'd never paid attention to the boring details of our shared life. That was about to change. I transferred half our savings to my personal account. Perfectly legal, since both names were on it. Then I called our credit card companies and requested new cards sent to my office address, citing security concerns. By midnight, I'd documented everything: screenshots of suspicious charges, printouts of her change schedule, photos of receipts I'd found in her car. Not for divorce court. I wasn't ready for lawyers yet. For something much more satisfying. Miranda came home at 1:30 a.m., her heels clicking on the hardwood floor. I was waiting in the living room, still dressed, the evidence folder on my lap. "Owen, why are you sitting in the dark?" I turned on the lamp beside my chair. "How was your evening? After I left, I mean." She kicked off her shoes, avoiding my eyes. "Look, about what Trevor said. Trevor said exactly what he meant. And you know what? He's right. I don't deserve you." I stood up, folder in hand. "But here's the thing, Miranda. You don't deserve me either." "What's that supposed to mean?" I held up the folder. "It means I know about the Marriott on 5th Street, the charges at Romano's every Tuesday for 6 weeks, the necklace you bought that I've never seen you wear." Her face went through several expressions: surprise, calculation, defiance. She settled on offense. "You're spying on me now? Going through my things?" "Our things. Joint accounts, remember? The ones you've been using to finance your affair." "It's not an affair." The words came out too quickly, too defensive. "Then what would you call it?" She sat down heavily on the couch, suddenly looking exhausted. "It's complicated, Owen. Trevor and I work together constantly. Sometimes the lines get blurred." "Lines?" I laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Miranda, you've been lying to me for months, sneaking around, spending our money on hotel rooms, letting him insult me to my face while you sat there and smiled." "I didn't smile." "You laughed. At his joke about how I don't deserve you. You actually laughed." Silence filled the room. Outside, a neighbor's dog barked once, then stopped. "What do you want me to say?" Miranda finally asked. "Nothing. I want you to pack a bag and stay somewhere else tonight. Tomorrow we'll figure out the details." "Owen, don't be ridiculous. This is my house, too." "Was. It was your house, too. Now it's just mine until we sort things out legally." She stood up, anger flashing in her eyes. "You can't just kick me out. I'm an attorney, Owen. I know my rights. And I'm an engineer. I know how to read contracts, and like our mortgage, which is in my name only because your credit was terrible when we bought this place. Remember?" The color drained from her face. She'd forgotten that detail, probably because I'd handled all the paperwork while she focused on her career. "You're really going to do this? Throw away 8 years of marriage because of some misunderstanding?" "Misunderstanding?" I opened the folder and pulled out a printed email. "This is from your personal account to Trevor, dated last week. Can't wait to feel your hands on me again. Owen's working late Thursday, so we'll have the whole evening." She grabbed for the paper, but I held it back. "How did you—" "Get into your email. Same password you've used for everything since college. Your maiden name plus your birth year. You really should update your security counselor." Miranda stared at me like she was seeing a stranger. Maybe she was. The Owen she'd married would have yelled, cried, begged for explanations. This Owen had spent 4 hours methodically documenting her betrayal and planning his next moves. "I'll pack a bag," she said quietly. "Smart choice." As she headed upstairs, I called Dave. "It's 2 a.m., man. This better be good." "It's better than good. It's the beginning of the most interesting month of my life." Miranda's retaliation came swift and predictable. By Friday afternoon, half our mutual friends had texted me with concerned messages about my controlling behavior and obsessive jealousy. Apparently, I was having a breakdown and making wild accusations about her innocent friendship with a colleague. Dave found me in my office break room, stirring sugar into terrible coffee. "So, according to Facebook, you've lost your mind," he said, sitting across from me. "Have I?" "Well, you did spend 3 hours last night explaining your master plan to destroy your wife's reputation. That's either crazy or genius." "Why not both?" My phone buzzed with another text from Jenna, Miranda's college roommate. "Owen, Miranda told me what happened. She's really worried about you. Maybe you should talk to someone." I showed Dave the message. Someone meaning a therapist. Because obviously discovering your wife's affair means you need professional help. "What's your next move?" Before I could answer, my boss, Mr. Collins, appeared in the doorway. He looked uncomfortable, which was never a good sign. "Owen, could I see you in my office?" Collins was a decent guy, former Navy, who ran our engineering firm like a tight ship. He didn't tolerate drama, which made this conversation inevitable. "Close the door," he said once we were in his office. "I got an interesting call this morning." "Let me guess. Someone's concerned about my mental state?" "Miranda Barsky. Your wife?" He leaned back in his chair. She says you've been acting erratically, making threats, going through her personal belongings. I felt that familiar calm settle over me. Did she mention why I was going through our joint bank statements? She said you're paranoid about her work relationships. Mr. Collins, with respect, did my wife tell you she's been having an affair with her boss for the past 4 months? His expression shifted. Owen, because I have documentation, hotel receipts, restaurant charges, emails. She's been using our joint accounts to finance her relationship with Trevor Lasker. Collins was quiet for a long moment. That's not what she told me. I'm sure it wasn't. I pulled out my phone and opened the photo gallery. These are screenshots from our credit card statements. Notice the pattern of charges every Tuesday and Thursday at the same hotel downtown? He studied the images, his frown deepening. She also mentioned I was obsessive and controlling. Did she tell you I found out about this affair by accident? I wasn't spying. I was paying our bills, like I have for 8 years. Jesus, Owen. So when she calls here again, and she will, you might want to ask yourself why she's trying so hard to make me look unstable. What's she afraid I might do? Collins handed back my phone. Take the afternoon off. Deal with your personal situation. But Owen, keep it out of the office. Understood. I drove to Miranda's law firm, a glass tower downtown that screamed expensive legal services. The receptionist, a young woman with perfectly styled hair, looked up as I approached. I'm here to see Miranda Barsky. Do you have an appointment? I'm her husband. That got me 5 minutes in Miranda's corner office, with its view of the city and diplomas covering one wall. She was on a phone call when I entered, wrapping up quickly when she saw my expression. Owen, what are you doing here? Returning the favor. You called my boss to discuss my mental health, so I thought I'd stop by and meet your colleagues. Her face went pale. You wouldn't. Wouldn't what? Tell the truth? Share the evidence I've collected? Introduce myself to Trevor's wife? His wife? Valerie Lasker. Lovely woman. I looked her up on social media. 3 kids, volunteers at the Children's Hospital, married to Trevor for 15 years. I bet she'd be fascinated by those hotel receipts. Miranda stood up, moving to close her office door. What do you want? Nothing. I just wanted to see where you work, meet the people you've been telling lies about me to. I haven't told any lies. No? So when you called my boss, you mentioned your affair with Trevor? She sat back down, suddenly looking smaller. It's not what you think. It never is. I settled into the chair across from her desk. But here's what I think. You've been planning this for months. The affair, the character assassination, making me look like the unstable husband, so when you file for divorce, you'll be the victim. That's not... The only problem is, I'm not playing along. Instead of having a breakdown, I'm documenting everything. Instead of making threats, I'm collecting evidence. And instead of going away quietly, I'm going to make sure everyone knows exactly what kind of person you really are. A knock on the door interrupted us. A tall man in an expensive suit peered in, Trevor Lasker himself. Miranda, everything all right? I heard we had a visitor. Trevor, this is my husband, Owen. Trevor stepped into the office, closing the door behind him. Up close, he was even more arrogant than he'd seemed at dinner. Everything about him screamed entitlement, from his manicured nails to his Italian leather shoes. Owen, good to see you again. How are you holding up? Holding up? Miranda mentioned you've been under some stress lately. Work troubles? I looked between them, understanding dawning. They'd coordinated this story, probably planned it while I was walking out of the restaurant last night. No work troubles, Trevor, just marriage troubles, the kind that happen when your wife starts sleeping with her boss. Trevor's smile never wavered, but something shifted in his eyes. That's quite an accusation. It's not an accusation. It's a fact. I pulled out my phone and opened the email I'd printed the night before. Would you like me to read Miranda's message about feeling your hands on her? Or should I skip to the part where she mentions my work schedule? The silence in the room was deafening. Miranda stared at her desk, Trevor's fake smile finally cracking. I think you should leave, Trevor said. I think you should call your wife. Tell her I'll be stopping by this weekend to introduce myself. I stood up, straightening my jacket. Oh, and Trevor? Next time you want to insult someone, make sure you know who you're dealing with. I might just fix air conditioners, but I'm very good at finding problems and solving them. I left them sitting in stunned silence. That evening, I met Dave at Murphy's Pub, our usual Friday spot. The place was crowded with after-work drinkers, the noise level perfect for private conversation. So how'd it go? Dave asked, sliding a beer across the table. Better than expected. I think I rattled them. Good. What's next? I pulled out a notebook, flipping to a page covered with my handwriting. Phase 2. Social pressure. Meaning? Miranda's built her reputation on being the perfect professional woman. Smart, successful, ethical. But she's been lying to everyone. Her friends, her colleagues, her clients. Time to let people see who she really is. Dave studied my notes. This is pretty elaborate. She spent months planning her affair and my character assassination. I'm just returning the attention to detail. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. This is Valerie Lasker. I think we should talk. I showed Dave the message. He whistled low. That was fast. Trevor probably went straight home and confessed, or maybe she was already suspicious. I typed back, I'd like that. When works for you? Her response came immediately. Tomorrow morning, 10 a.m., Starbucks on Elm Street. Dave shook his head. You realize there's no going back from this, right? Once you meet with his wife, this becomes nuclear. I thought about Miranda laughing at Trevor's joke, about her calling my boss to paint me as unstable, about 4 months of lies and betrayal. Good, I said. I'm tired of conventional warfare. Valerie Lasker was nothing like I'd expected. Instead of the pampered trophy wife I'd imagined, she was sharp-eyed and direct, wearing jeans and a Georgetown law sweatshirt. She was already seated when I arrived at Starbucks, 2 coffee cups on the small table. Owen, I'm Valerie. Her handshake was firm. Thank you for agreeing to meet. Thank you for reaching out. She studied my face for a moment. You don't look like someone having a mental breakdown. That's because I'm not. Good. Because Trevor came home last night with the most interesting story about his colleague's unstable husband making wild accusations. She leaned forward. The thing is, I've been married to Trevor for 15 years. I know when he's lying. I sipped my coffee, waiting. He said you accused him of having an affair with your wife. He was very concerned about your mental state, very sympathetic about how hard it must be to watch your marriage fall apart. But he showered the moment he got home, which he never does after work. And he's been working late 3 nights a week for months, always the same nights. And yesterday I found a credit card statement he'd hidden, charges at restaurants and hotels I've never been to. I pulled out my phone and opened the folder of screenshots. Same pattern as my wife's charges, same dates, same locations. Valerie studied the images, her jaw tightening. That's Trevor's signature on this hotel receipt. And that's Miranda's handwriting on the room service order? She sat back, processing. How long have you known? Officially? 2 days? Unofficially? I've been ignoring the signs for months. What are you going to do about it? The question hung between us. This was the moment where I could choose the high road, divorce lawyers, mediation, quiet dissolution of 2 marriages, or I could choose something more satisfying. What would you like me to do about it? Valerie smiled, and it wasn't entirely pleasant. I'd like them to experience some consequences for their choices. We spent an hour comparing notes, sharing evidence, planning strategy. Valerie was a former prosecutor, sharp and methodical. By the time we parted, we had a plan that would make both Trevor and Miranda very uncomfortable. Phase 1 started that afternoon. I drove to Trevor's office building and found his BMW in the parking garage. Beautiful car, probably cost more than I made in a year. It seemed a shame that someone had apparently dumped several pounds of raw shrimp into the ventilation system. The smell would take weeks to get out, assuming he could even figure out where it was coming from. I'd hidden the shrimp shells deep in the air intake, places no car wash would think to check. I was walking back to my truck when Trevor emerged from the elevator, probably heading out for an early weekend. He spotted me immediately. What the hell are you doing here? Public parking garage, Trevor. I'm allowed to be here. He looked around suspiciously, then approached me. Stay away from my family, Owen. I mean it. Funny thing to say, considering you haven't been staying away from mine. Your marriage problems aren't my fault, I laughed. Really? So those hotel receipts forged themselves? Trevor stepped closer, trying to intimidate me with his height and expensive suit. You're making a mistake. I have resources you can't imagine. Lawyers, connections, influence. Keep pushing, and I'll bury you. Is that a threat? It's a promise. I looked him up and down, this entitled man who thought his money and position made him untouchable. Then I did something that surprised both of us. I slapped him. Not a punch, not a shove, an open-handed slap across his face, the kind of dismissive gesture you'd use on a misbehaving child. Trevor staggered back, more shocked than hurt, his hand flying to his cheek. What the... Next time you threaten me, remember this moment, I said calmly. Remember that all your money and lawyers and connections couldn't stop one angry husband from making you look like a fool in your own parking garage. I started walking toward my truck, then paused. Oh, and Trevor, You might want to get your car detailed. Something smells fishy about it. I drove home with the windows down, feeling better than I had in months. My phone was buzzing with texts, Miranda, her friends, probably Trevor, but I ignored them all. Dave was waiting in my driveway, leaning against his car with a grin on his face. Please tell me you didn't do anything stupid. Define stupid. Anything that could get you arrested. Then no, nothing stupid. He followed me inside, where I poured us both a bourbon and told him about my morning with Valerie and my afternoon encounter with Trevor. You slapped him? Seemed appropriate. Owen, the man has serious money. He could make your life very difficult. He's already making my life difficult. The difference is, now I'm making his difficult too. My phone rang. Miranda. I let it go to voicemail, then played it on speaker. Owen, what did you do? Trevor called me. He's furious. He says you threatened him, that you might have done something to his car. This has to stop. Call me. Dave raised his eyebrows. Something to his car? I may have left him a small gift. Nothing permanent, just aromatic. Jesus, Owen. Relax. It's just seafood. Very expired seafood, but still. My phone buzzed with a text from Valerie. Trevor came home early, very agitated. Whatever you did, it worked. He's been making phone calls all afternoon. I showed Dave the message. See? Consequences. And when he figures out what you did to his car, then he'll know I'm serious. That evening, I got a call from an unknown number. The voice was crisp, professional, expensive. Mr. Barsky, this is James Morrison, attorney with Morrison, Klein & Associates. I represent Trevor Lasker. Congratulations. Mr. Lasker has asked me to inform you that any further contact with him, his family, or his property will result in legal action. What kind of contact? Any contact whatsoever. Stay away from his office, his home, his vehicle. Is that clear? Crystal, can I ask what prompted this call? I think you know. Actually, I don't. Has something happened to Mr. Lasker? A pause. Just stay away from him, Mr. Barsky. The line went quiet. I looked at Dave, who was shaking his head. A lawyer, Owen. He called a lawyer. Good. That means I'm getting under his skin. It also means he's escalating. So am I. I pulled out my notebook and flipped to a fresh page. Phase 2 was about to begin, and this time I wouldn't be working alone. Valerie Lasker was about to discover just how creative two angry spouses could be when they put their minds to it. Dave, how good are you with social media? Why? Because Trevor and Miranda are about to become very famous, and not in a good way. By Monday morning, Trevor's BMW situation had become the talk of his office building. The parking garage attendants were baffled by the smell. The detail shop couldn't locate the source, and Trevor had been forced to rent a car while his BMW underwent what could only be described as automotive surgery. I knew this because Valerie had become my inside source. Her text that morning was particularly satisfying. T spent $800 at detailer yesterday. Still smells like low tide. He's furious. But Trevor's car was just the opening move. The real game was about to begin. I was in my office when Dave arrived with coffee and a laptop bag, looking like a man about to commit digital warfare. You sure about this? He asked, setting up his equipment. Positive. What did you find? Dave opened his laptop and pulled up several social media profiles. Trevor Lasker is very active online. LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Lots of photos from charity events, business dinners, family vacations. And he's been careless. Look at this. Dave clicked through a series of Instagram posts. Here's Trevor at a business dinner 3 weeks ago. Same restaurant that's on your wife's credit card statement. Same date. The photo showed Trevor raising a wine glass in a toast, but the camera angle revealed part of another person across from him. A woman's hand with distinctive red nail polish and a bracelet I recognized as Miranda's. He tagged the location, the restaurant, even the date. If someone were to cross-reference this with other evidence, it would be pretty damning, I finished. Gets better. Look at this Facebook post from last month. Trevor's Facebook showed a picture of him at some corporate retreat, but in the background, barely visible, was Miranda in workout clothes. The post was tagged at a resort 2 hours outside Charlotte, the same resort that appeared on our credit card statement as a spa weekend with girlfriends. Dave, you're a genius. I'm just getting started. Your wife's been posting too. He pulled up Miranda's social media accounts. She was more careful than Trevor, but not careful enough. Her posts from the past few months told a story of a woman living a double life. Mysterious dinner dates cropped to hide her companion, new jewelry that appeared without explanation, check-ins at locations that didn't match her stated whereabouts. The metadata on these photos is particularly interesting, Dave continued. Look at the timestamps. This photo of her girls' night out was taken at the same restaurant, same time as Trevor's business dinner. Can you compile all this into a presentation? Already working on it. But Owen, once this goes public, there's no taking it back. Good. I'm tired of being the only one dealing with consequences. My phone rang. Miranda's office number. Owen, we need to talk, she said without preamble. Do we? Trevor's lawyer called me. He says you've been harassing him. Harassing is a strong word. I'd call it expressing myself. Whatever you did to his car. I didn't do anything to his car. I may have left some organic matter in the general vicinity of his car, but that's not the same thing. This isn't funny, Owen. He's talking about filing charges. For what? Littering? Public seafood placement? For stalking, harassment, vandalism. Valerie, is that you? The line went quiet. I'd been expecting this call, had been wondering when Valerie would make her move. What? Miranda sounded confused. Sorry, I thought I heard someone else on the line. Someone who might be interested in hearing about Trevor's legal threats. There's no one else? Because if Trevor's wife were listening to this conversation, she might wonder why her husband is so concerned about protecting his relationship with his colleague's wife. Another pause. Owen, what are you talking about? Oh, I'm talking about transparency, Miranda. Honesty, novel concepts, I know. Meet me for lunch, today. We need to discuss this situation like adults. I'll think about it. I hung up and turned to Dave. How quickly can you get that presentation ready? Give me 2 hours. Perfect. I have a lunch date. Miranda chose a restaurant across town, probably hoping to avoid anyone we knew. She was already seated when I arrived, looking polished and professional in a navy suit, but I could see the stress in the tight lines around her eyes. You look tired, I said, taking the seat across from her. I wonder why. She waited until the server left with our drink orders. Owen, this has to stop. You're embarrassing yourself. Am I? How so? Following Trevor around, vandalizing his car, making wild accusations. What accusations have I made that aren't true? She faltered. It's not about truth. It's about how you're handling the situation. How should I be handling it? Should I pretend I don't know about your affair? Should I quietly accept your lies and character assassination? You called my boss to tell him I was unstable. You've been telling our friends I'm paranoid and controlling. You've been painting yourself as the victim while you've been cheating on me for months. Miranda looked around nervously, clearly worried about who might overhear. Keep your voice down. Why? Afraid someone might hear the truth? Afraid someone might hear you having a breakdown in public. I laughed, genuinely amused. You know what's funny? Everyone keeps talking about my breakdown, but I feel better than I have in years. Clear-headed, focused, like I finally understand what I'm dealing with. What's that supposed to mean? I pulled out my phone and opened the folder Dave had prepared. It means I know about the Marriott charges, the restaurant bills, the jewelry purchases, the weekend at Mountain View Resort that you told me was a girl's spa trip. Her face went pale. How did you? The same way I found out about everything else, by paying attention. I showed her the screen. This is Trevor's Facebook post from that weekend. Interesting how you're in the background of his corporate retreat. Miranda stared at the photo, her composure finally cracking. You've been stalking our social media? I've been connecting dots. Amazing what you can learn when you start looking at the evidence objectively. What do you want? I want you to stop lying. To me, to our friends, to yourself. And then what? We go to counseling? Try to work things out? I studied her face, looking for any sign of remorse, any indication that she understood what she'd destroyed. All I saw was calculation, a lawyer trying to figure out her best angle. No, Miranda, then we get divorced, but we do it honestly, without you trying to destroy my reputation to cover your tracks. I'm not trying to destroy anything. Really? So when you called my boss, what exactly were you trying to accomplish? She looked away. I was worried about you. Try again. Fine. I was trying to protect myself. Happy? You were acting unpredictably, and I didn't know what you might do. What I might do? Like what? Like what you did to Trevor's car. Like showing up at my office uninvited. Like whatever you're planning next. I leaned back, understanding something fundamental about the woman I'd married. She wasn't sorry about the affair. She was sorry she'd been caught. And she was terrified of what I might do with that knowledge. Miranda, I'm not the villain in this story. I'm just the guy who finally stopped pretending everything was fine. So what happens now? I stood up, leaving money on the table for my untouched drink. Now you get to find out what consequences feel like. That afternoon, Dave and I put the final touches on our presentation. 37 slides of social media posts, credit card statements, and photographic evidence, all laid out in chronological order. The story it told was undeniable. 2 people conducting a months-long affair while lying to their spouses and colleagues. You realize this is nuclear, right? Dave asked, reviewing the final slide. Good. I'm tired of conventional weapons. My phone buzzed with a text from Valerie. Trevor's been making calls all afternoon. I think he's planning something. Be careful. I showed Dave the message. Too late for careful. What's the distribution plan? I smiled, opening my laptop to reveal a carefully curated email list. Miranda's law firm partners, Trevor's wife and children, both of their social circles, local business journalists who cover the legal community. Jesus, Owen. They wanted to play games with reputations. Time to show them how it's really done. My finger hovered over the send button. Once I pressed it, there would be no going back. Miranda and Trevor's carefully constructed public images would crumble. Their professional reputations would be damaged. Their personal relationships would be destroyed. I thought about Miranda laughing at Trevor's insult, about her calling my boss to paint me as unstable, about 4 months of lies and betrayal and calculated deception. I pressed send. The email went out at 4:47 p.m. on a Wednesday. By 5:30, my phone was ringing constantly. By 6:00, Miranda was pounding on my front door. I let her in because the alternative was letting the entire neighborhood hear what she had to say. She stormed into my living room, her professional composure completely shattered. What have you done? She screamed. I shared some information with interested parties. You sent our private business to everyone we know. I sent documented evidence of your affair to people who deserve to know the truth. The senior partners, Owen. You sent this to the senior partners at my firm? Among others, yes. Miranda collapsed onto the couch, her face in her hands. You've destroyed my career. No, you destroyed your career. I just documented it. My phone rang. Dave. Turn on Channel 9, he said without preamble. I grabbed the remote and found the local news. The business segment was running a story about ethical violations in Charlotte's legal community, complete with a photo of Miranda and Trevor's law firm. Allegations of improper conduct between senior partner Trevor Lasker and associate Miranda Barsky have prompted an internal investigation at the prestigious firm of Lasker, Morrison, and Associates. Miranda looked up at the screen, her face ashen. They're calling it an ethics violation. Isn't it? It's a personal matter. Not when it involves a senior partner and his subordinate. Not when it affects client relationships and firm resources. The news segment continued with a brief interview with someone from the State Bar Association discussing professional conduct standards. Miranda's name was mentioned twice. Owen, please, call them back. Tell them it was a mistake, that you were angry and exaggerating. I'm not going to lie for you, Miranda, not anymore. My phone buzzed with a text from Valerie. Trevor's been fired. Partners called an emergency meeting. He's packing his office now. I showed Miranda the message. She stared at it, the full reality of her situation finally sinking in. They fired him? Apparently. What about me? I don't know. What did your boss say when you talked to him? I was too afraid to call. The irony was perfect. Miranda, the confident attorney who'd been manipulating everyone around her for months, was too scared to face the consequences of her actions. You should probably call, I suggested. She tried 3 times before someone answered at the firm. I could only hear her side of the conversation, but it was enough. Yes, I saw the news. No, I can't come in tonight. Tomorrow morning? Of course. I understand the seriousness. Yes, I'll be prepared to discuss. She hung up, looking defeated. Disciplinary hearing tomorrow morning. They're deciding whether to terminate me or just suspend me pending the Bar Association's investigation. I'm sorry it came to this. No, you're not. You planned this. You wanted to destroy us. I wanted you to face consequences for your choices. There's a difference. Miranda stood up, smoothing her skirt, trying to reclaim some dignity. This isn't over, Owen. I'm still an attorney. I still have resources. Use them. Fight back. Make this interesting. You think this is a game? I think this is justice. Finally. She headed for the door, then paused. Trevor's lawyer says we can sue you for defamation, invasion of privacy, intentional infliction of emotional distress. With what evidence? Everything I sent out was true and documented. Good luck proving defamation with facts. We'll see. After she left, I poured myself a bourbon and called Valerie. "How's Trevor handling unemployment?" I asked. "About as well as you'd expect. He's been raging around the house, making threats, calling lawyers. But Owen, he's also been drinking, a lot. I'm worried he might do something stupid." "Like what?" "Like drive over to your house and confront you directly." As if summoned by her words, headlights swept across my front window. A car door slammed, followed by heavy footsteps on my porch. "Valerie, I think your husband just arrived." "Owen, don't answer the door. Call the police." "No need. I've been expecting this." Trevor's pounding on my door was aggressive, angry, the sound of a man who'd lost everything and needed someone to blame. "Open up, Owen. We need to talk." I opened the door, but kept the security chain engaged. Trevor was disheveled, his expensive suit wrinkled, his silver hair messed. He reeked of alcohol. "Hello, Trevor. Rough day at the office." "You son of a—" He threw his weight against the door, but the chain held. "Trevor, you're drunk. Go home. You destroyed my life. 20 years building that firm, and you destroyed it with your lies." "What lies?" "Everything in that presentation was documented fact. Those photos were taken out of context. That evidence was obtained illegally. Actually, it was all publicly available information. Social media posts, credit card statements from joint accounts, hotel receipts you left lying around. Nothing illegal about connecting dots." Trevor stepped back from the door, swaying slightly. "This isn't over. I'll sue you for everything you have." "With what money? Unemployment doesn't pay enough for revenge lawsuits." "My wife has money. My family has connections." "Your wife is filing for divorce, Trevor. I don't think she'll be funding your legal battles." That stopped him cold. "What?" "Valerie, your wife, the woman you've been lying to for months. She's filing for divorce." "You're lying." I held up my phone, showing him Valerie's latest text. "Papers filed this morning. Trevor will be served tomorrow." Trevor stared at the message, his face cycling through disbelief, anger, and something that might have been fear. "She can't. We have prenups, agreements." "Had. Past tense. Amazing how adultery clauses work, isn't it?" "You bastard! You planned this whole thing." "No, Trevor. You planned this when you decided to have an affair with my wife. I just documented the results." He turned and stumbled back to his car, a rental sedan that was a far cry from his BMW. As he drove away, I noticed he was weaving slightly. I called the police non-emergency line and reported a possible intoxicated driver, providing the license plate number and direction of travel. Then I called Valerie. He was here, drunk, angry, making threats. I reported him to the police. "Good. Owen, there's something else. I hired a private investigator to look into Trevor's finances. The affair with your wife wasn't his first. There have been others, and he's been using firm money to pay for hotels, dinners, gifts." "Embezzlement?" "Possibly. The investigator found evidence of at least 3 other affairs over the past 5 years, all with junior associates or paralegals." Jesus. It gets worse. One of the women filed a complaint with HR 2 years ago. It was buried, probably because Trevor was a senior partner, but now that this is public, she's talking to reporters. I sat down heavily. What had started as revenge against my cheating wife was becoming something much bigger. "Valerie, are you okay with how far this has gone?" "Owen, my husband destroyed our marriage, stole from his firm, and harassed his employees. I'm not okay with what he did, but I'm perfectly fine with him facing consequences." After we hung up, I sat in my living room, processing the day's events. Miranda's career was in jeopardy. Trevor had been fired and was facing possible criminal charges. Their affair was front-page news in the local business community. 6 months ago, I'd been the joke, the blue-collar husband who didn't deserve his successful wife. Tonight, I was the man who'd brought down 2 of Charlotte's most arrogant legal professionals. My phone rang. Unknown number. "Mr. Barsky, this is Rebecca Chen from the Charlotte Business Journal. I'm working on a story about the situation at Lasker, Morrison, and Associates. Would you be willing to comment?" "What kind of comment are you looking for?" "Well, you're at the center of this story. The wronged husband who exposed the affair. Our readers would be interested in your perspective." I thought about it. One more chance to control the narrative, to make sure the truth was told completely. "Ms. Chen, I'll give you an exclusive interview on one condition." "What's that?" "You tell the whole story, not just the affair, but the months of lies, the character assassination, the attempts to paint me as unstable while they were the ones behaving unethically." "I can do that. When would you like to meet?" "Tomorrow morning, after Miranda's disciplinary hearing. I want to see how that plays out first." "Perfect. Mr. Barsky, one more question. Do you have any regrets about how you handled this situation?" I looked around my house, quiet, peaceful, free of lies and manipulation for the first time in months. Miss Chen, my only regret is that it took me so long to start fighting back. The next morning, I woke up to find my driveway blocked by news vans. The story had gone regional overnight, picked up by papers in Raleigh and Atlanta. My phone was full of interview requests, friend requests from strangers, and one very interesting message from a literary agent asking if I'd considered writing a book about my experience. But the most satisfying message was from Miranda's law firm. Ms. Barsky's employment has been terminated effective immediately pending investigation by the State Bar Association. I made coffee, ignored the reporters on my lawn, and started planning my next chapter. For the first time in years, I was the author of my own story.